When can you actually retire? It sounds like such a simple question, but once you start thinking about it, you realize the answer isn't simple at all. Is it when you hit a certain dollar amount in your portfolio? Or maybe when you reach a certain age? Or perhaps it's when Social Security kicks in. All of those things matter, but none of them on their own tell you the full story. Even if you take it a step further and you run an analysis with cutting-edge software, or you do a straight line projection of your wealth over time, those are still just pieces of the puzzle. That's why at Seaside Wealth Management, we walk clients through a 3-part test. It's not perfect, and nothing ever is when it comes to the future, but it gives you a much more complete picture of whether you're ready to retire, and more importantly, whether you're positioned to stay retired. And here's the thing, retirement readiness isn't a one-time question. It's something you revisit and refine because life doesn't stay still. So let's walk through these 3 tests, and along the way, I'll share some real stories from clients who are wrestling with these same questions. But first, I'm Brad Lineberger, founder of Seaside Wealth Management, certified financial planner, and I'm here to help you get more out of life with your money. Let's dive in. Step 1 is the withdrawal rate test. The first thing we look at is your portfolio withdrawal rate. How much of your portfolio are you pulling out each year to cover your expenses? A common starting place is the 4% rule, and it says that you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, adjusted for inflation, and historically you've had a very high probability of your money lasting at least 30 years. But here's where this gets tricky. I had a client couple, let's call them Mark and Susan, who wanted to retire at age 62. And when we ran the numbers, their withdrawal rate looked like 7% in the early years. That would normally be a red flag. But when we dug deeper, we realized why. They still had a mortgage for 3 more years, and Susan wasn't eligible for Medicare. So fast forward, and at age 65, the mortgage was gone, Medicare kicked in, and their withdrawal rate dropped to 3%. So yes, those first few years looked unsustainable if you just applied the rule of thumb, but in reality, their plan was fine. And that's the power of context. Withdrawal rates give us a snapshot, but snapshots don't tell the whole story. You might be wondering, okay, so is 4% always the right number, or is there a better rule of thumb? And the truth is, 4% is just a starting point. Some clients are fine at 5%. Others need to stay closer to 3%. The key is matching your withdrawal rate to your specific mix of expenses, guaranteed income, and timing. Step number 2, the straight line projection. And the next lens is a straight line projection, where if your portfolio grows at, say, 6% on average, and you take out what you need, will you still have money left at age 90 or 95? This can be a really encouraging picture for people. It gives you that simple visual, yes, we're trending in the right direction, but averages can be deceiving. And I think back to a client, we'll call him Dave. He was an engineer and he loved precision and he wanted every number exact. When I showed him a straight line chart, he said, "Brad, this looks too easy, what's the catch?" And he was right to be skeptical, because here's the catch. Life doesn't give you averages in perfect order, and neither does the stock market. If you happen to retire in a rough market like 2008, you might see your portfolio down by 30 to 40% in the first year. And if you're also withdrawing income at the same time, the math changes dramatically. On the other hand, if you retire into a strong market like 2010, the same withdrawal strategy could leave you wealthier after 10 years than when you started. That difference, the sequence of returns risk, is huge. And that's why we can't just stop with straight line assumptions. You might be thinking, okay, so how do I protect myself if I happen to retire in a bad market year? That's where flexibility comes in. Things like having a cash buffer or adjusting spending slightly in down years, those little levers can make a huge difference. Step number 3, the Monte Carlo test. And this is where Monte Carlo analysis comes in. And that's basically software that stress tests your plan against 1,000 randomly generated market scenarios. Think black swan events like 9/11, Black Monday, or the pandemic lockdowns. It's much more powerful than one line on a chart. I'll give you an example. A client of ours, Ellen, came in with about $2.5 million saved. And on paper it looked great. She asked, "Can I really retire now, or should I keep working another 2 years to be safe?" And when we ran her Monte Carlo, it showed an 85% chance of success, meaning 85% of scenarios her money lasted to age 95. She was relieved, but also nervous about that 15%. What happens if I'm in the unlucky group, she asked. And that's where the severity of failure matters. For Ellen, most of her spending was covered by her Social Security and a pension. Her portfolio is more of a cushion. So even in failed scenarios, she was still covering 85 to 90% of her lifestyle. And that gave her the confidence to retire in her terms. But contrast that with another client, Paul, who didn't have much in the way of guaranteed income. In his case, if the portfolio ran out, he'd be short thousands of dollars per month. For him, we had to rethink spending levels and tax strategies to improve the odds. Monte Carlo helps us to see not just the probability of success, but also the impact of failure. And that's a big difference. You might be asking, so what's a good Monte Carlo score? Should I aim for 100%? And here's the reality. 100% is almost always overkill. It usually means you're underspending and sacrificing lifestyle unnecessarily. For most people, something in the 75 to 90% range is a great balance of safety and flexibility. So let's bring it all together. Can you retire? Here's the framework we use at Seaside Wealth Management. The first is looking at your withdrawal rate. Are you pulling a sustainable amount from your portfolio? The second is a straight line projection. Are you trending in the right direction under reasonable assumptions? And the third is the Monte Carlo and stress testing how durable your plan is across thousands of possible futures and how bad would it be if things don't go well. No single test is the answer, but together they give us clarity and confidence. And then we layer in life. Maybe you plan to downsize. Maybe you'll work part-time doing something you love. Maybe there's an inheritance in the future, or maybe you'd rather not count on that and let it all be a bonus if it comes. At the end of the day, retirement isn't about hitting a single dollar amount or a magic age. It's about building a plan that can adapt to whatever life throws your way. That's exactly what we do at Seaside Wealth Management, helping you get more out of life with your money. So if you've been asking yourself, can I retire? I hope these 3 steps give you a framework to start answering that question with clarity and confidence. If you like what you heard, make sure to like and subscribe and share with anyone who you think can benefit. And make sure to watch this next video. YouTube seems to think you'll like it.